Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. So excited to be here. This is actually Thanksgiving week that this podcast episode number 145 is being put out. So happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. If you're outside the United States, happy Monday. You know, whatever you're celebrating or working on this week, I hope you have a fantastic week. Now, as you heard, I am the income engineer, broadcasting from the now a little bit colder, finally, Personal Pension Radio Workshop here in Southern California. Those listen to the show know that I have a full workshop, a wood shop that I have in my backyard, and I actually work with my podcast setup and studio right here in the workshop. Now, my mission to deliver the retirement dream that Wall Street has promised for years. I really want to help you pull back the curtain on that mainstream financial advice and the marketing hype so that you can actually ask the questions that are right for you. Now, I want to jump right in today, but I always want to make sure, and I know I've heard this many times, and now I've said it probably too many times, I need to make sure that new folks who listen to the show understand what I'm about. I was educated by the Wall Street financial advisory machine. Now when I say that, it really is a machine. It's a business. Wall Street spends nearly $18 billion a year on marketing. Marketing. They spend a huge amount of money on education for financial advisors. So if they control that much marketing dollars and they control the education for financial advisors, do you think it's possible that that marketing message and the education they provide to financial advisors is biased in favor of Wall Street? Well, I hope you agree that it just makes sense. Wall Street doesn't have a financial incentive to teach financial advisors, to teach you, the general public, things that may not be as good for Wall Street, right? They have a financial incentive to teach financial advisors to disseminate information to the public that is beneficial for Wall Street, right? So what I have found over the years is that the advice, that information that ultimately makes its way to your financial advisor, banks, and Wall Street firms, and CPAs, and attorneys, and insurance professionals, it's just not complete. It is not complete. And the answer to every question, when you look at Wall Street, for example, and the typical financial advisory conversation, is invest more, diversify, dollar cost average, invest. For me, the Great Recession was a big wake-up call. The education that I received was not completely right. It was halfway there and had not given me a complete picture about really the message that is most important to the average person. The most important message in many cases is not just how big is my retirement savings, but how am I going to then be able to draw maximum lifestyle, maximum income from that someday when I choose to retire or exit from my current work? That was the question that was missing, because the answer from Wall Street was always, maximum income is just invest more money, save more money, bigger. It's not correct. The truth is that maximum income does not happen with a product. It doesn't happen with any one thing like a Roth IRA. It doesn't happen with real estate. Annuities don't fix it. Life insurance doesn't fix it. Investments by themselves do not fix it. It's not until you get all of these things together in a coordinated, integrated approach that you can actually have a hope of achieving a lifestyle in post-retirement that you can actually look forward to. That's my specialty. That's my passion. That's where the title of the income engineer came from. It was born out of this idea that I am going to be a missionary for maximum retirement income and that message. Okay. So now, disclosure alert. I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. I am a certified financial planner professional. All that being said, don't act on things that you hear on this show as if you have heard advice for you and your situation. And please, dear goodness me, do not act on things that you hear from financial entertainers. Financial entertainers on radio, podcast, TV, these are people that are not licensed, they're not regulated, they have no oversight, and they really have no business most of the time giving out financial advice. And especially in situations where people might actually act on it without meeting with a qualified financial planner. And that's the key. Please meet with a qualified financial planner. Obviously, I have a bias. I'm going to suggest that you meet with me. I work with clients and people all over the country through the miracles of technology nowadays. The world is very small. So if you are interested in getting a consult or digging into a topic or something in more detail, please send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com. That's Kraig with a K, Kraig @kraigstrom.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn and all over the interweb. All right, let's jump in. My Deal of the Week segment has actually gotten a lot of positive feedback. Really appreciate the positive feedback. So I'm going to keep the Deal of the Week in there whenever I have a Deal of the Week to share with you. Last week I talked about my daughter Madeline being a real bargain shopper. I was very impressed when my daughter had us get up and leave a restaurant because the food was going to be so overpriced. Now, this week, I thought I would share another Madeline story. I am helping Madeline buy a car. Now, a lot of you out there might have this come up where you're in the market for a car. Now, there are certain financial entertainers out there who are better than they deserve, who say that you should only ever pay cash for a car. Well, if you've listened to the last couple of episodes, and if you haven't, go back and listen to the last couple of episodes, paying cash for assets that are depreciable assets is often a really bad idea. Now, in her case, paying cash for a used car, in her case, would mean that she would have to get a very low-quality vehicle. It would be a low-quality vehicle because she does not have that kind of cash to be able to pay for a car. Now, I am not going to help her just simply pay cash for a car. I believe it is going to teach her a much better lesson that she actually earns that on her own, and she agrees. So, I'm very proud of her for that. But she does not have great credit. She cannot go to a car dealership and get good financing. She cannot go to a credit union and get good financing because she's a young college student who's had a one too many times when she moved and a medical bill was mailed to the wrong address and she ended up with collections on her credit score. Alert to those parents out there who have kids coming home from college, make sure that those kids have forwarded their mail when they move from one dorm room to an apartment to another apartment like my daughter did. She didn't forward her mail. And she ended up in collections on some medical bills that really didn't need to go to collections, but she didn't get the bill. So I am helping her with financing that she needs so that she can have an affordable monthly payment and be able to get a much safer car. So instead of paying cash for $4,000 or $5,000 car, which may not be very good quality, might be very high miles, might not be terribly safe, I'm going to be able to help her get into a car that's more of a $10,000 or $12,000 car. And with my good credit, the payment on that will be very low and something that she can manage. I'm not giving her a car. I'm actually giving her the opportunity to earn that car and keep that car on her own. And I'll have that peace of mind that I'll know that she's driving a safe car. Now, in addition to that, I am also, as a hobby on the side, I have a car dealership license. So I'm not just giving her a car. She has to give me her old Ford Fusion with 200 billion miles on it. And I am going to take that car in trade and sell it through my dealership after I've fixed it up a bit, because it does need to be fixed, but I'm going to take that older car, not completely unsafe necessarily, but an older car that's not good for snowy weather, and I'm going to sell that here in Southern California, and that thing is perfectly safe here in Southern California where it doesn't snow. So I'm actually taking her car as trade. So that's my deal of the week. Again, is my little Miss Madeline being very thrifty, and she's actually working through the process of finding a car and making sure that we get it dialed in just right. So love that. Now, watch your step. The segment I call Watch Your Step. I've heard this actually came up on two separate things that I'm going to plug into Watch Your Step. I really want to encourage you to avoid getting sucked in to the hype. When you're listening to, Jim Cramer on Mad Money, or you're listening to or reading this Money magazine, or you're listening to the news, you get this hype effect that the press just exciting to say these kind of things. Here's my examples. Tesla motor cars. Tesla announced their new sports car. They're going to crank out a new sports car that will be released in 2020. So it's not going to be out for a couple of years, but they announced it, and everybody's buzzing about it, and it's so amazing, and it's going to be the fastest production car that's ever been built on this planet today. Awesome. Tesla, 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 Tesla. I hear about it all the time, okay? Please, don't get sucked in to the hype. They unveil this supercar, right? And everybody talks about, oh, Tesla's so amazing, got to invest in Tesla. Now, I understand if you invest in Tesla, but please don't invest in Tesla like it's Ford Motor Company. That's what somebody actually said. They actually said, and I forget where I heard it, whether it was on the radio, whatever. They said Tesla's worth more than Ford. The company value, according to the stock market, was worth more than Ford Motor Corporation. Now, for the record, Tesla loses about $1 billion per quarter. $1 billion per quarter losses. They sell cars that only a small percentage of the population can actually afford to buy. On the other hand, Ford actually makes a profit. They make money every quarter, and Ford actually sells cars that the majority of people on Earth can afford, right? Which company really, truly is more valuable? The one that sells their product to a small, tiny percentage of people that have to be able to afford a $200,000 sports car, or the company that actually sells cars to millions and millions of people from the bottom of the economic ladder to the top of the economic ladder, the entire spectrum, and actually makes a profit? Well, of course, Ford is clearly, just common sense. It's just a more valuable company because it makes money and it has a much wider product base, right? And yet the news media and the hype and the money people, oh, look at Tesla. Tesla's amazing. Well, that might be true. That might be true. But right now, when I look at it, I look at massive speculation. Speculation is Tesla. Ford is an investment. Ford is a company that actually has a track record, that actually has it. So just my take on things, I am not at all giving any advice. I don't own any stock in Tesla. I don't own stock in any car company or anything like that. I just want you to look at it from a back it up a few paces kind of a perspective, this hype. And here's another one. Walmart concerned about Amazon and Whole Foods. I actually listening to a podcast, and I think it was an NPR podcast, and they were talking, I forget which one it was, and they were talking about Walmart being concerned about Amazon and Whole Foods. Now, so those of you who don't know, Amazon purchased the Whole Foods grocery chain a few months back, whenever it was. Doesn't really matter. But this idea that this podcast person was saying that Walmart was concerned about Amazon and Whole Foods. Really? I mean, let's just look at the numbers. Again, let's back this up because everybody gets excited. Oh, Amazon's so worth this much money, and Whole Foods, and this, they're making a run at Walmart. Really? Come on. Whole Foods, the grocery store chain, 467 stores in the U.S., 467 stores in the country, and that's just the U.S. They're not worldwide per se. Walmart has 5,412 regular stores, 3,552 supercenters. Okay. Walmart's revenue, just Walmart by itself, the total company, $485 billion with a B, $485 billion. Amazon's revenue, $136 billion. I think Amazon is a little ways away from being a big threat to Walmart. Now, that's not to say that Walmart, of course, isn't out there doing everything they can to have an advantage, right? Everything they can always to have a company-wide corporate advantage makes sense. But this idea that the media, paints Amazon as like some kind of a big, huge, oh, this is amazing. Well, they're not. They are not. They barely make any money as a profit whatsoever, right? Amazon, for example, I've said this before on the podcast, in its entire existence, might have made maybe $5 or $6 billion in profit. In the entire history of the company, $5 or $6 billion in profit. Walmart runs, I think, somewhere around $38 to $40+ billion a year. Every year. They are very profitable. Amazon is not. So this idea that Whole Foods and the Amazon connection, now Walmart sees them as a threat, not really. Don't get sucked into that hype because that could lead to a really bad investment decision that, well, a podcast that I listen to says that Walmart is concerned about Amazon and Whole Foods. Well, that must mean that that's a great investment. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not giving investment advice. I'm just saying maybe it is. But don't get sucked into that marketing hype or that press hype. Okay? So I just thought that was, watch your step, folks. Watch your step. Now, questions and my personal observations this Thanksgiving week. Okay, that last week, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to episode 144. I've gotten a lot of great feedback, Dave Ramsey and his own advice proves him wrong again. Go back and listen to that if you're interested. Now, I am going to talk about a very somber topic. I'm going to talk about a somber topic, but I want it to be a good one. I want you to take this as a positive reminder to do something, that's important for your family. Because this week I want to talk to you about Michelle. Michelle is a business owner. Well, I have to say it. Michelle is a business owner in California, and I spoke at a business meeting that she's a member of this particular business group earlier this year. Michelle was what I would call, she was the tough cookie in the room. She was the tough cookie. I thought she was going to be my heckler. She just happened to be a real character. And turns out she was just awesome. After the meeting, I hung out with everybody and she was the most fun and engaging, and we actually hit it off. And it turns out she was running a very successful business and was about to have a huge sale of her business for something like $22 million. She's going to be selling her business for $22 million. She's basically 60 years old and about to have a $20+ million sale. And I asked her, have you considered setting up any legal or financial strategies and tactics to minimize the huge capital gains tax and investment tax on your business sale? And Michelle's answer was, nah, I don't want all the hassle and expense of setting things up. I've heard about it, and I'll have plenty of money when the deal is done. Now, Michelle did agree, after some coaxing from me, she did agree to have a meeting with myself and one of the fantastic attorneys that I work with. And we actually, after some investigation and just discovery and opening up the conversation, we actually laid out a potential solution that was just awesome. I mean, charitable planning and legacy planning and lifetime income for her two sons and a huge tax deduction and just saving millions of dollars in taxes and additional plans to preserve wealth for her sons and just lock in a really comfortable lifestyle for Michelle at the same time. Well, Michelle liked the idea, but her personality was, I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want the hassle of it right now. You know what? I'll just get this deal done. I know I'm going to pay taxes on it. I just don't want to hassle. We can set up plans later for the boys and their inheritance. We'll do that later. Basically after the sale, after Thanksgiving, it'll all be done. And she said, let's talk about investing the money and setting things up after. Okay, there was just no going back, unfortunately. She had made up her mind. Well, Michelle took care of the capital gains tax issue and all of that and the issues of paying tax on the sale by falling down a few weeks ago at home. She hit her head. She ended up with a severe headache, but she didn't go to the doctor. She just lived through the headache for a while that day. And unfortunately, her housekeeper found her unconscious and called 911. And she never woke up, and her two sons had to unplug her. Yeah, they had to unplug her. Like, oh, what a horrible, horrible decision to have to make. The sale of her business, though, was basically done. It wrapped up a week after Michelle passed away. In California, the capital gains was taken care of with a step up at death, meaning that her sons did not have to pay a capital gains tax. But guess what? Because there were no other significant plans in place, within the next 9 months, her two sons will have to write an estate tax check in the millions and millions of dollars that they will actually have to give to the federal government because Michelle did not have estate tax planning in place. She didn't have her planning in place at all, really. She had the very, very basics. A few hours and a few $1,000s would have saved millions and some tremendous pain and suffering for her two boys. Just to go through this whole process now is going to be such a nightmare. The moral of the story, if you will, and really please take this to your Thanksgiving turkey table, right? There's no amount of money that fixes things like this, right? Assuming that things are taken care of because, people have so much money, or, they must have people that do that, or I'm sure that Uncle so-and-so has everything taken care of. You're probably wrong, because regardless of how much money people have, I'm telling you now, they don't. Most of the time, they do not have things taken care of. I have stood in my office looking out at corporate assets from a skyscraper, looking out at corporate assets that belong to our clients in the millions and millions and millions of dollars of these corporate real estate holdings that we could see from the office. And these same folks didn't even have a living trust. They didn't have anything in place. So please assume that it's not taken care of. And please throw the old rules like, we don't talk about money, politics, and religion at the dinner table. Be brave. Throw those rules out, because those kind of things will cost you so much money if you don't just have the conversation. Please ask your parents, when did they get their living trust? Do they have one? When's the last time it was updated? Do you have a power of attorney, mom and dad? Who's listed on the power of attorney, right? I've talked to moms and dads who have never told their children that they are not their power of attorney. I mean, how terrible is it, to think that you could have a terrible situation, a terrible injury or something, and then your children find out that they're not, that you didn't even trust them enough to be their power of attorney. That's not the case necessarily, but how would it feel, right? Ask your sons and daughters. So moms and dads, ask your children if they have a power of attorney. Ask them if they have a will that names the guardians for your grandchildren. Right? Ask them if they have a will. That's a big mistake. Most young families don't even have a will that identifies a guardian for their children. They don't realize, for example, here in California, the state of California has a guardianship all built in. It'll be the County Child Protective Services. If you don't have a will, your parents and family can come and argue with Child Protective Services and the family courts for guardianship if something happens to you, right? So please, take this as the opportunity when you gather around the table and you're sitting in the living room while there's a commercial on the football game on Thanksgiving Day, whatever it is. Ask your kids, hey, do you have a will? Ask your mom and dad, when's the last time you had your living trust updated? Oh, wow, you don't have a living trust? Oh, I guess you don't like us very much, right? Well, I joke, but that's what my candid answer has been with folks is you get a living trust and a will and power of attorney because you love your family. You don't want them to go through the hassle and the nightmare of having to deal with the legal ramifications after someone is hurt or dies and you don't have your proper legal documents done. So take this as a positive opportunity. Be inspired, be motivated, okay, to have those tough conversations. And they don't have to be tough, really. Just ask your family. You should be able to talk about these things. And if you want more detailed help, if you need a great connection to have a living trust or a will or something reviewed or have it done, and you want to know more about it, please send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com. Take this somber story and turn it into something positive. Turn it into something that brings the family together. And remember, it's very unlikely that these things are going to happen. Be positive. We're not talking about big negative things. These things are truly positive when you look at them this way. Take action. Hug your family. Bring them close. Let's all make sure that you're there to support each other. And keep your questions and comments coming. I truly appreciate the feedback. I want to make sure that you know that I have been just absolutely flattered and honored. I love this. This is, as you know, something that I've been doing for quite some time at episode 145 or so. So please keep your comments coming and questions coming. I really do appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Those of you who are outside the United States, enjoy your week, whatever that holiday or adventure is coming up for you. You've got the Christmas season and the winter season. Hope you all enjoy. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you are there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening.
Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.